So this is Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7, and this is Samsung's latest foldable powerhouse. And while it looks super futuristic, especially with the thinness and that profile, it's not for everyone. So before you drop $2,000 to buy this phone, here are 5 reasons why you shouldn't buy this phone. Now, I'm gonna elaborate on my top 3 reasons, and then I'll give you some more reasons which are self-explanatory. Now, let's start with the obvious one. Number 1, price. Now, at nearly $2,000 for the base model of the Z Fold 7, with 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM, the Z Fold 7 is probably the most expensive smartphone in the market, or among the most expensive. For around that amount, you could buy a flagship phone and a semi-flagship or a mid-range tablet. In fact, I've been shopping around on Amazon, and for about $2,100, that's just $100 extra, you can get yourself a Galaxy S25 Ultra with 512 gigs of internal storage, and of course with the latest Snapdragon 8 Elite, an S Pen, and a 5000 milliamp hour battery for $1,249. And then you can also buy a Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus with 256 gigs of internal storage and a 12.4-inch display, of course, because this is a real tablet, an S Pen, a 10,000 milliamp hour battery plus, and that's going to cost you $849. So in total, that's going to be about $2,100. And you're getting the latest flagship from Samsung and a much better tablet than an open Z Fold 7. Of course, with S Pen support and all the bells and whistles of a bona fide tablet. And if you shop around more, there are some cheaper options, okay? You could go for the S24 Ultra, which is still a very, very capable phone in 2025, and an even better tablet. In fact, I'm gonna list for you all the options you can get, and these options will include a proper smartphone and a proper tablet separately with that particular budget, $2,000. And also, I'll list for you a couple of alternative foldable phones that you can get for way, way less than $2,000. So I'll leave those linked in the description below. So what I'm saying here is basically, unless you specifically want a Samsung tablet in your pocket, you could shop around and get better deals for that amount of money. I mean, it's an expensive phone. Anyway, reason number 2 is the battery. Now, the Z Fold 7 comes with a 4,400 milliamp hour battery, and this is a lithium-ion battery. Now, keep in mind that this Z Fold 7 has a bigger display than its predecessor when it's open and when it's closed. These are both bigger displays. Now, for Samsung to retain the same 4,000 milliamp hour battery, or 4,400 milliamp hour battery just to be exact, some people could say it's a feat of engineering because they managed to make a very, very thin tablet and retain the same battery capacity. And that's cool, but from a usability standpoint, I don't know, man. It's a bigger display both in and out, and you might be charging your phone a bit sooner than you used to on the Galaxy Z Fold 6. That's all I'm saying. Now, is there anything Samsung could have done about it? Potentially, yes. Okay, because it's 2025 and some companies are using a new technology in batteries called silicon carbide batteries. In fact, you can go and look at the Huawei Honor Magic V5. That phone is just about the same weight as the Z Fold 7. It's thinner than the Z Fold 7, but it's packing a 5,820 milliamp hour battery. So you can see how much battery capacity you can get just by changing the technology from lithium ion to silicon carbide. But of course, we know how Samsung likes to be careful with batteries, especially with new technology for batteries, especially after all that disaster that happened all those many years ago with the, was it Note 7? I'm not sure. Yeah, so we all remember that and what happened and how big of a disaster it was for Samsung. So I know they like to take their time, but we should be seeing silicon carbide batteries in Samsung phones, especially such thin foldable phones. Now, the third main reason not to buy the Galaxy Z Fold 7 is that it doesn't have S Pen support. So if you're an S Pen person, then this is not the phone for you. Now, Samsung in its effort to make the Z Fold 7 as thin as possible, or as thin as it is, they had to get rid of the technology that provides for S Pen support. So they're calling it the digitizer layer. Okay, so that digitizer layer is an extra layer of some technology under the display, and it's basically what detects stylus input. Okay, so they had to choose between having stylus support or S Pen support and making the font thinner. And they made an executive decision to make the font thinner. They decided not enough people use the stylus or the so-called S Pen, and so they decided a thinner font will make for a much better decision than retaining S Pen support, which is not that popular, especially on foldables. So if you like to use S Pens, then go ahead and buy a different tablet or different phone. You can go and get yourself an S24 Ultra or an S25, and then you can buy a proper Samsung tablet. Or maybe you can look elsewhere for foldable phones that have S Pen support. So those are my top 3 reasons not to get the Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now, obviously, depending on who you are, you might have some extra reasons. Now, some obvious ones are, of course, fragility. This one is a bit more fragile than a different flagship like the S25 or S24. And then this one also does not have SD card support, so that could be a reason to put some people off. No headphone jack. And then the one thing which I noticed about this phone is because it's so thin, the cameras seem to be sticking out a bit more than usual. Look at that. So you know what that means? That means this phone rocks on surfaces like crazy. So if that's a deal breaker for you, then this is not the phone to get. So those are some of the reasons not to buy the Galaxy Z Fold 7. Now, if you have more reasons, you can let us know in the comment section below. Maybe your own personal reasons for not getting this phone. And if you have any comments or questions, also feel free to talk to us in the comment section. Good luck.